The Great Emu War, Australia's strangest battle. In the vast sunburnt fields of Western Australia, in the year 1932, the government declared war. But this wasn't a war against another nation or even other humans. This was a war against emus. These weren't just any birds. They were towering, flightless, fast as a horse, and as unpredictable as a thunderstorm. An unstoppable force. In just weeks, they'd invaded farmland, wrecked crops, broken fences, and sent desperate farmers begging for help. The government's answer? Send in the military, with machine guns. What followed was one of the most absurd, poorly executed, and downright hilarious military operations in history. And the best part? The emus won. This is the true story of the Great Emu War, the only war where birds outran bullets, and the army left defeated by feathers. The year is 1932. Australia, like the rest of the world, is deep in the grip of the Great Depression. Money is tight, tension is high, and the land? It's not cooperating. After the First World War, thousands of Australian soldiers came home, changed, tired, and looking for a new life. Many were offered land under a government scheme. Become farmers, work the land, rebuild your life. It was a noble idea. But the land they were given? Remote, arid, brutal. These men became known as the soldier settlers. They ploughed, they sowed, they hoped. But nature had other plans. Then came the real punch in the gut. In 1932, during harvest season, just when things seemed like they might finally improve, the emus arrived. Not one or two, 20,000. Yep, you heard it right, 20,000 emus. They migrated inland from the coast, following rains that had teased the desert into temporary bloom. They saw the newly planted wheat as a perfect buffet. And the fences? Just minor inconveniences. Crops were destroyed, fences were trampled, water supplies were disturbed, and the farmers, already hanging by a thread, were pushed to the edge. In desperation, the farmers turned to the government. "We fought for this country," they said. "Now, help us fight back." The first reports trickled in quietly. A few emus near the edge of the property. Crops pecked overnight. But within days, the reports turned into panic. Hundreds, then thousands of emus swept through Western Australian farmland like a plague on legs. These weren't your average birds. Emus are massive, standing up to 6 feet tall, with powerful legs, sharp talons, and a knack for sprinting at nearly 50 kilometers per hour. Worse yet, they were smart. Emus travelled in small groups, coordinated loosely, and if danger appeared, they'd scatter in every direction. Try shooting one, and the others vanished like ghosts in the bush. Fences designed to keep sheep and cattle in were no match for these birds. They tore through them, destroying not just crops, but the infrastructure that kept farms functioning. "It's like fighting ghosts," one farmer reportedly said. "They come, they destroy, they disappear." With each passing day, more damage piled up. Wheat meant to feed families, fuel towns, and revive the economy was being ripped apart by thousands of beady-eyed marauders. The farmers couldn't hold them off with rifles alone. Their cries reached Parliament. "Send help! Send soldiers! Send the army!" It might sound ridiculous now, but back then, the request made sense. These were war veterans. They believed in action, in force. If birds were attacking their homeland, then by God, they'd fight back. And somehow, the government said yes. The request was passed up the chain, and remarkably, it was approved. On November 2nd, 1932, the Australian government officially sent troops into battle, not against rebels or invaders, but emus. Leading the charge was Major G.P.W. Meredith of the Royal Australian Artillery. He was given 3 men, 2 Lewis machine guns, and 10,000 rounds of ammunition. His mission? Eliminate the emu threat. The operation kicked off in Campion, a wheat belt town already under siege by birds. The plan seemed simple. Spot emus, line up the shot, wipe them out. But nothing about the Emu War would go according to plan. On the very first day, the soldiers encountered a group of about 50 emus. They waited, aimed, pulled the trigger, and the gun jammed. The birds escaped unharmed. The soldiers were left in a cloud of feathers and embarrassment. The next day, they tried a more strategic approach. Herd the birds into an ambush zone. This time, over 1,000 emus were sighted. But as they opened fire, the birds once again scattered, zigzagging wildly. The bullets mostly missed. By the end of the first week, only a couple dozen emus had been killed. Major Meredith himself admitted, "If we had a military division with the bullet-carrying capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world." In one infamous attempt, the soldiers mounted a machine gun on a truck. The driver sped across the plains, chasing a mob of birds. The gunner aimed, shouted, and nearly fell off. The truck bounced so violently, the gunner couldn't fire a single shot. That's when the headlines began to roll in. Emus outwit soldiers. Birds 1, Army 0. The public laughed. The government winced. Just 10 days into the campaign, the operation was quietly paused. Emus 1, Army 0. The war was far from over, but already the emus were winning. Word spread fast. Across newspapers, radios, and tea-time gossip, Australians chuckled over their military's newest opponent. Journalists had a field day. The emus are winning the war. Birds outmaneuver troops. Machine guns, no match for feathery menace. The story even reached international papers. The rest of the world scratched its head. Australia did what now? Back home, farmers were furious. They sent guns, one said, but not enough brains to use them. Meanwhile, in the wheat fields, the emus were thriving. Crops continued to be destroyed. The birds had adapted. They were faster, warier, and even more scattered than before. So, just 1 month later, the army returned. This time, they approached more cautiously. Better ambush tactics, more patience, and they started getting results. Kind of. Over the next several weeks, an estimated 900 emus were killed. Another 2,500 were believed to have died from injuries. But there was a problem. The army had used over 9,860 rounds of ammunition. That's more than 10 rounds per confirmed emu. The cost? Considerable. The embarrassment? Even greater. Parliament was not amused. In December 1932, the campaign was officially called off. The army packed up. The birds remained. Final score: emus 1, Australian Army 0. The emus kept coming. Even after the soldiers left, the birds continued to migrate seasonally, trampling fences, devastating crops, and pecking at whatever they pleased. The government eventually shifted strategies. Instead of soldiers, they offered bounties. Farmers were encouraged to hunt emus themselves, and surprisingly, it worked far better than the army ever did. Over 57,000 emus were culled in the following years through local control programs. Not glamorous, not headline-grabbing, but effective. As for Major Meredith, he returned to regular duty. His brief but unforgettable campaign against the emus became something of a legend. Today, the Great Emu War lives on, not as a symbol of failure, but as a reminder of how absurd and unpredictable history can be. It's a tale that's taught in classrooms, joked about in pubs, and retold online again and again. Not every war ends in blood and conquest. Some end in dust, feathers, and a shrug. Because sometimes history doesn't make sense. Sometimes the birds win.